a week. And there are some, we like to pick them small because they're more tender when they're small than when they're starting to get lumpy and just shy of drying out. So if I field test them, and if they eat well, I'll put them in when they're in that size range. And if they don't, then I'll pull them and just drop them. We get a lot of volunteer beans in those beds, which you just take them out like a weed or you let them grow either way. But we still harvest a boatload of beans, just harvesting once or twice a week. They're definitely a valuable crop for us too.
Well, I do a lot
There's
of
a
it.
lot of labor involved in picking them.
Yeah, my problem is I don't know how you guys sell anything because I just eat them. Like it's a real problem. Like I got to figure out a better system. I mean, I'm doing food distribution, the free food distribution from a community garden. And so we all kind of are hanging out and we're trying to be more mindful of like washing hands because that's really the worry that I have is like a food safety thing. You know what I mean? But like today I was out there just kind of looking at stuff. I wasn't doing any harvesting and I just was eating stuff. Like, how
Sure.
do farmers like not? I mean, I don't know. I guess you'd get sick of it, but
I don't think so. I probably eat 2 or 3 pints of cherry tomatoes a week.
yeah,
Um,
me too. That's making me
I
feel
just
better.
do.
Yeah.
And, I'm a real fastidious eater, so my fingertips don't pass the plane of my lips. And so there's like no mouth to hand contact involved. And so I don't mind it, but other people when they're putting something in their mouth and they're up to the second knuckle, that makes me wonder. Um, so just look at your eating style, Jolene, and see how it is
I
because
don't
that is
think,
food safety is a real concern.
yeah.
And if you're a messy eater, you shouldn't be eating in the garden. But if you're
I
neat and tidy and your fingers don't go in your mouth, or if they do, you're like, I need to wash my hands or quit doing this. And
I
but it's something to be mindful of.
what I was thinking is I could just have like bring a little pint thing and I could pick and put into the pint and then have like a dedicated break. I would not consider using an adjective, the word fastidious to describe myself. So I feel like I have, and that I do see that as a common thread throughout the farmers that I know. It's fascinating. There's a really interesting balance or relationship between fastidiousness and like surrender to the larger thing, right? Whatever that thing is, however you want to call it. It's there's a control, right? It's like control versus like lack of control. It's a really interesting dynamic between farmers that I appreciate.
And a lot of it depends on what you're eating. If you're eating a bean, you can just pick that thing up and work it in with your teeth and lips, and your hands aren't even involved. So, there's a lot of technique involved in eating from the garden without contaminating your food. And
Yeah, yeah, I like
same
it.
thing with lettuce, with greens. You can work that thing right in. And from a food safety perspective, I worry a lot about just cutting myself, or if I have a cut, taking care of that,
Yeah.
keeping wounds bandaged, those sorts of things. Those are all real concerns. And some people wear gloves. It just depends on your food safety strategy. You can wear gloves, but then your hands are always wet.
Yeah. Okay. And then do you guys do like a survey to your customers or like a newsletter thing where you're asking what they are interested in you producing? I mean, I know you have your favorites and your stalwarts, the things that you depend upon and you kind of just know, but how do you pick what you're going to be doing for the future year?
Well, I've got to say that what we produce here is what I feel grows fairly well. Uh, the days of growing the exotic type things are kind of behind me, and so I'm sticking with with basics out there that, everybody still eats, you know, not trying to do, um, you know, colored potatoes and, different things like that. The only thing that might be a little different is our peppers. We do the peppers that are multicolor, uh, simply because they're pretty standard today, and just go that route. Um, I do want to report back to everybody. Last time, I talked about a late fall planting that I was trying here at the farm. And the report back is I hit it just right. I put in one of the empty hoop houses, I put in two 2 foot by 45 foot beds and prepared these beds very, very carefully. And so what I have planted in there is I have a lettuce blend, I have turnips, I have radishes, and I have carrots. And the lettuce is 2 inches tall right now and growing. And the turnips are about the same. Radishes are a little slower. And of course, the carrots are still just popping. So I feel like, wow, I, you know, hitting it like this doesn't happen very often. And I feel very, very fortunate that that this happened this time, because I'll be able to keep these going through November and all in that hoop house. So I'll have product to sell through November. That's my report.
Amazing.
Along those same lines, Jolene, I've heard different perspectives. Some people I was just looking at his kale, and if you want to feel bad about your kale, look at Ben Hartman's kale at Clay Bottom Farm. It's absolutely amazing. Of
Okay.
course, he's in Indiana. It's a whole different climate,
Mm.
soil's different, but his kale's like 5 feet tall. It's magnificent.
Wow. I'm looking
Um,
right now. I've never heard of him.
yeah, Clay Bottom Farm.
Okay, cool.
There's a lot to be learned. He's been at the farm conference back in the last one that was in Fallon would have been COVID. So 2020, he was the keynote speaker there, and he had done a session when Ann was running the Specialty Crop Institute at Western Nevada College. He's
Cool.
just a fantastic grower. He's humble. He puts all his information out there, and there's a lot to be learned from keeping track of what he's doing, including how to grow kale. I'm trying, but it doesn't look like that. Um, but and I've heard this from several people, he will take like 10% of his garden he allows for trying something new. Um,
Nice.
so that he doesn't overcommit and end up losing production from the things that he knows will do well. We're kind of like Ray, we've fallen into a pattern where we grow the things that we know we can grow and that people are going to purchase enough to make it profitable. Hot peppers are a good example. I would love to grow and have had great success growing habanero peppers that'll just light you up. But the problem is, what is one habanero worth? That's what people use for cooking, and they don't eat them raw. They might make sauce, but I mean, 2 or 3 plants is all you would really be able to regularly sell the fruit from. And so some of those things that are really fun to grow and they're beautiful and they're great conversation starters, they just don't pay for their square footage at all. So we've kind of fallen into growing the same stuff. And one of the considerations too is that, and I don't say this negatively, Carson City, Lonnie and I both grew up in Carson City, and it's pretty conventional. It's not nearly as trendy and hip as some of the markets would be, and the people in Reno that are looking for fava beans. We would never sell a fava bean. There's a lot of things that we would never sell that people in the Reno market might be looking for. Um, and so you have to just look at who you're selling to. And we ask a lot of questions. Our customers ask a lot of questions. And some of them have asked us to grow things that we've tried in the past. And, chefs are tricky because then they'll move and you've got something that's interesting that no one else wants. And so we just stick with kind of the bread and butter garden stuff. Um, Colored peppers, colored tomatoes, they all sell well, but everything is pretty standard.
Okay, and I just kind of went to that Clay Bonham Farms, and that's one of his like tenets of success is start backwards and start with the customer. And you guys know obviously your market because you're, you know. So I'm gonna create a survey and send it around just because I feel like there's room for that. And I feel like we kind of finally have a little bit of bandwidth for improvement or for hearing for critical, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you're just so darn tired that it's like, don't tell me anything I don't want to. Yeah, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like it's like you're just kind of not in an open space to receive any more information, albeit positive or, definitely not any negative stuff. But we've just never had like done that newsletter thing before. And I just feel like it's actually a really good opportunity to connect with your community and hear. And maybe some things just won't work, like Lindsay kind of knows the farm best and what's gonna grow and why she purposely was telling me that she doesn't do lettuce because of all the plastic needed in order to ensure that the crop stays fresh and stuff. It's just not, it's depressing. It depresses, you know what I mean? It's a whatever, a cost benefit analysis for the value system. So, but I think that in and of itself is an interesting conversation to have with the consumer or whatever, so.
Mm-hmm. Sure. It another thing too at a farmer's market where you have a lot of different vendors, some from California, quite a few actually from Nevada at the Carson Farmers Market. They you kind of hear people come and are regular customers. Well, do you have this? Well, we don't. And some of the things we don't know where to send them because it's sometimes it's hard to find someone growing a certain product, but we know where to send them if they're after onions or leeks or something that we don't grow. But there again, but people ask, and because they're looking for something, they have a recipe they want to try, and it's on their shopping list. And we have in the past, like people keep asking for onions. We could sell onions, but we don't grow onions. Um, they take a lot of room, and we don't have a lot of room to produce a crop that's large enough to meet our market needs.
Right.
So there's a lot of considerations.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is like gently informing and educating the customer about in a insightful way, I think, because I think there's a little bit of assumptions. You should just be able to grow anything, right? Like I remember when I worked at the co-op, like people thought that like we'd have bananas hanging from the banana thing and they were like, everything's local in the co-op. And the co-op does an excellent job of like delineating locally, their marketing efforts and their communication and stuff and the support of the local farmers, but it's the consumer sometimes that doesn't understand the nuance of what grows, right? Like because they don't know. So
They don't. We sold melons for Mr. Latin for a long time after he stopped coming into Carson City. And it never fails every year, the first Saturday or the second Saturday of June when the market starts, people are looking for Fallon melons, heirloom tomatoes, and corn.
yeah.
and they're like a month early on all accounts, 2 months early on the melons. But you're right, they don't understand because they've seen them in the winter on grocery store shelves, and they're coming from wherever they come from, but they're not coming from here. we're fortunate enough to have another certified organic grower at the Carson Market, Rodriguez, Manuel Rodriguez from Watsonville, and he
Okay.
grows beautiful, beautiful produce. He's a really nice man, and there's a lot of things that he brings that we know we're not going to try because that's where people go to get them, and and there are things that we grow and have that in the past he hasn't grown, um, and so we have a good kind of an understanding, and the market manager tries to facilitate that too, and because he goes to a lot of markets, and there are times where she may say, you know what, the Hollies and so and other ranchers, farmers have this product. If you could sell it at your other markets and not bring it,
Mm,
and he's may not be good with that, but he honors that, and it works out well. So there's a lot of communication behind the scenes, um, going on because some people in Watsonville, I mean, they can grow
yeah.
artichokes like there's no tomorrow, strawberries, beautiful, beautiful things, and they're ready early, and they're
Yeah.
ready over a
Spring.
long
Yeah.
period. So yeah,
And that's cool to hear. It's like a collaborative effort or like a community-based awareness of what would suit the collective, if you will. That's because we have Riverside Farmers Market on Sunday morning, and we were on
mm-hmm.
Sundays before they moved to Sunday, and we're kind of contemplating the farm stand day and all that stuff. We had really good
Right,
sales this year, but it's tricky kind of managing the people to not have them be disappointed to get to the farm because we only have 20 different items. I mean,
right, right.
right? And like it's hard because it's a convenience thing and whatever. So, but yeah, maybe I'm just kind of processing out loud as the season's coming to a close, and I'm going to be working on this survey because I feel like doing it now is the best time when people are like closely, have been to the farm stand recently and whatnot. So thank you for helping me. That was really
You're right.
good to process with you guys because I'm going to be doing that work in the next week or two to send out to the newsletter. So
Jordan, do you have an agenda for today? Or if you don't, I have a thing I would like to throw out there.
I'd love to hear it. I've been sick, so I did not do the pre-work that I usually do. So
yeah, and I
appreciate
want
to hear what you're interested in
any
bringing up
questions
today.
Anna has too. I always wanted like
Okay, Jordan, you emailed us uh, notice of the small farm conference in 2025, and was asking in that for participants, I believe we'd call them, and all. What I wanted to do is throw out here to anybody who's tuned in to try to give us some ideas of what they would like to see at a small farm conference. Uh, I know they put categories in there, but it's always good to hear from the people who attend uh, what they would like to experience in one of these small farm conferences.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all generally working on trying to come up with good content for that. So if there are specific topics that we can definitely take back to the organizers, get that included. I think this conversation we're having about how to sort of choose your crop mix, how to start from where the market is for produce and work your way backwards to what can be grown. I think that'd be something that could be beneficial to people. Uh, the coordination question I think is very important. I don't think there's a good answer about how to do it, but maybe a session getting people to um, be aware that that coordination has to happen and it's beneficial instead of just kind of letting it go by chance would be something that'd be interesting. You know, a kind of roundtable discussion between, because I think there will be some people from the sales side of things, from whether markets or aggregators. You know, having that kind of a roundtable could be very productive. I'm open ears if people have suggestions.
So Jordan, are you on the planning committee, or is this part of just the effort to get the word out through the Nevada Farm Network? You are on the committee.
Yeah, I am other duties as assigned, so helping out on that.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, and that for awareness will be February 20th through the 22nd in Sparks.
I saw that. That was cool. One of my kind of bugbears about the conference is the lack of local food served. And I don't know the budgetary requirements, and I know the food safety and or whatever, like the catering expectations. I completely understand that sometimes that's just too much, like too many logistics and moving parts and stuff. So I'm not trying to be unrealistic, but like last year, I appreciated the free lunch and all the things, but I just feel like if we're at a farm conference, like the bare minimum would be to at least try to pay if there is some sort of budget, or like school, just, I don't know how to say this in a way that doesn't seem like it's criticizing or, rude, but yeah, like it felt like there was like bags of chips and donuts and stuff and for snacks. And then and I guess that's February, so there's probably not a lot of food, obviously. That's
being hard to get fresh produce in February. But
yeah. And then we did
those turnips raised planted over winter.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I guess I appreciate that. But even just a nod or like a dish that is like a soup or like something that is could be, something from Prema or something from that is being produced, even if it's just like a kind of a token or something like that would just, I think, go a long way. Because one of my kind of consistent gripes is like the food systems of like our national, like the industrial ag system, right? It's so big and all the other things that I just feel like these efforts where we do gather together in community are opportunities to try to put the pieces together and to create like an example of how the system can work. And I think that they are opportunities to help challenge ourselves to do that and then learn the issues or have like an obvious conversation or like a mention about it or something. It just feels a little bit like I don't know, I just want to like, even if it was just addressed like, hey, we know that this is like Doritos or whatever. I don't know. I know I'm like I'm really into nutrition, so I have a judgment about that or an opinion about that, but I just don't like that it's not like that, like it's not that food isn't the edible food is not in like the center. So you guys understand what I'm getting at, right? Can anyone else put this more eloquently than I can?
That's the answer. And, I think we can look into that. And if we have any thoughts about what either, a product that someone makes that would still be available by February.
Yeah, like just even a creative reaching out, like Reno Food Systems could provide lemon balm tea because we have, 30 pounds of lemon balm being dried right now. You could have lemon balm tea with local honey.
Well, thank you for that donation, Jolene. We will be much appreciative.
Yeah, just
add that to the list.
Something like that. Yeah, just kind of addressing the disparity between like the industrial ag and like supporting the local food system is something that I think there's a little bit of room for improvement for.
I would agree. I think, looking back, we were involved considerably in the farm conference planning up to 2020 when it was done by the Nevada Small Farm Conference group, a lot of groups. Can't remember exactly what we were called, but primarily a lot of it was my wife in 19 and 20. But the part of it is dependent on the venue too. Last year there was opportunity having it at the 3C facility in Fallon because food was brought in to do whatever. And I know that when Ann was doing the conference, Ann is a great resource for bouncing ideas off of too, for the current committee. But when Ann was doing the conference, the when it was in Fallon, she would contract with the Slanted Porch Lunch. Some of they made their own potato chips out of potatoes that Steve grew himself. Steven Hernandez, the owner and chef. Kelly was cooking there at that time, in fact, as his sous chef. But anyway, and then there was a dinner several times in the a hosted dinner in the farm stand at Latin Farms, and that was lovely. And so it's just, I think it's important, but it's something that needs to be considered in the early stages on where you're going to have it, because I know the years that we had that conference at the Nugget, it was increasingly more difficult to have that special dinner off site. One year we did it at it was an absolute blast. We did it there maybe 2 years at Nothing to It, and the lady and her husband that owned Nothing to It, they used our pork, they used some other products, they used a lot of local food that they got direct from farmers and the co-op. They had Matt and Mr. Green, the brewers out on 4th Street. But anyway, they had local beer that was served at the dinner, and people could buy tickets in advance for that, and there was a certain number. And so there's ways to do that, I think, to accommodate that and have a dinner of local food that would be held off site, in a different spot where it could be. We had it one year at Bartley Ranch. That's a long time ago when Ryan Osker was the chef at the co-op, and the co-op did the cooking.
I remember
And
that.
it was just it was marvelous.
Yeah.
That's right after they hired Dean Payne, and he and his wife were there, and it was a great time at Bartley Ranch. So there are ways to consider it, and I think, speaking to you, Jordan, and as a representative of the planning committee, it's just something that needs to be. I think it's a good goal to have, an effort to make, even if there's a special dinner that's off site. And I know that it was subsidized so that it would be affordable for people to go. It wasn't 80 or $100 a head or whatever would be not affordable. I'm not sure what it would cost. But anyway, those are some ideas and how it was handled in the past. And it frequently, there was one year in house at Rancho Santa Fe, and Joseph Greco did the music. He's not around anymore, but it was just a marvelous time. It was super, super crowded, and in that house, it was a little broken up, but it worked. And so having an offsite dinner that features local food, that's how you would do it.
Yeah, we'll definitely take that into consideration, bring up the planning commission. I know, it's at the Nugget, so I have not seen those agreements, but there are usually some requirements for the venue in terms of what can be provided or what has to be done through their catering or whatnot. So an offsite one would be interesting if there's something that could work. So I can definitely bring that on.
Maybe Great Basin and Sparks could be rented because Mark Esty,
Sure.
That's just for location, and people could stay at the who would be coming out of town. I don't know. But Ray, I didn't mean to kind of go down that specific hole. So Jordan, your call out was basically for content matter, right? And for people who wanted to volunteer to present information, is that right? And
yeah, for presenters. So like Rob will do one on Grow Organic Nevada. There will be one about the farm network, etc.
Awesome.
still looking for additional content or additional topics that we could then find presenters for.
Something in regards to the food chain grant would be good, Jordan. I don't know about presenting a topic, but a gathering of people or something, you know, it could be a different kind of thing, you know, where it's like, I don't know, you know, like a Nevada Farm Network in person, if you will.
One of the things too to consider when you're looking at attracting people is having, you could have like a forage and livestock section or courses. You could have specialty crop and vegetable and flower farming sessions. There's also institutional concerns with things like food security planning and food systems discussions, and there were always social workers, nutritionists, and people at the farm conference also. But I think tying in with what Jolene was mentioning about serving local food, that involves local farms and encourages their attendance as well. When there's a function, one year we had it at US Foods, actually. It was catered by US Foods, and it was marvelous. And they used local products that they had purchased. That just popped into my head. But I think involving local farms for a meal also helps make the conference marketable to those local farms and encourage them to participate and be a part of the conference as a whole.
Rich, you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I think probably from my point of view anyway, I looked over the categories that you sent out and what have you. I think when we're trying to bring small farmers into a conference, I think we need to offer them meat and potatoes type of presentations. You know, we had good presentations this last year. The regenerative session I thought was fantastic. And we had, you know, good information from all the you know, state and federal entities and all, which was good. But the meat and potatoes that I'm talking about is something that these small growers can take away with them to help them in their farming operations. And so I did see that per se in the program that you sent out. But again, the topics fairly broad. It was you know, UNR wording. So that's the way I put it. Not farmer wording, but you know, academia type wording on the categories. But I'd sure like to see you know, the meat and potatoes type of presentations offered that that people are looking for. uh, and would help them.
And
I think.
so is that sort of like specific planting topics, real technical, how to know how much nutrients you need or cover, strategies like that? Or is it the marketing part of it? Is it business operations?
I think, Jordan, I think if we look at the broad category of operations, we can incorporate an awful lot from the day we shut down in December to the day we start planting again in the spring. There's an awful lot right there of categories that people need to take a look at and see what works and what doesn't work, what they need to do. This type of thing. Again, the propagation of seed for the seedling sales and for the for your own plants, this type of thing. Do people know? Have they ever experienced any of that? I wonder. Are they buying plants, already, a foot tall? I don't know. Or are they direct seeding? All of these things, I think, go into the actual farming itself, setting up a schedule for the farm year is critical. If you don't have that, you have no idea where you're going. You're just doing catch up, seems like, all the time. If you don't have things set up to where you know that in May you're going to plant this, in June you're going to plant that, and on and on. And harvesting, when to start harvesting, uh, where to take your products, the marketplace. That is extremely important today. It seems to me like our marketing, uh, well, to me anyway, seems to have shrunk a little bit. Uh, we have farmers market. Um, I don't know. I don't think Home Feeds Nevada is going to be there next year. I don't know. I'm not going to, count on it until until they actually say it's going to be there. But all of these type things, uh, we used to do some of that in marketing concept where we could take and share uh, and get together with farmer and the consumer, and the consumer could be uh, you know from the farmer's market or from a business. And since the co-op is not doing the their distribution that they did, that was so helpful to all the farmers, where we could take it in, they distributed to restaurants and whatever. I think we need to look out there, see where the market might be, the possibilities. And again, from my point of view, I think it's shrinking. It is for me anyway, shrinking. Uh, just throw it out there and see what anybody else thinks. And
I would love to have a session on, planning your farm year and really drill through that. Um, the marketing piece, definitely, if there's some, because part of the goal of this is to make those connections between the retailers and the aggregators and the others and the farmers. So, if we could have some sort of a discussion to get people coming up with those ideas, then maybe we can find new channels for people to make sales. As far as the other, I think it'd be fantastic if we could make it work to have like a live farm talk where folks could ask questions at the conference, have that recorded, do that as an event. I think people
Yeah. Is it, I mean, it might be
benefit. Sorry.
no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You go.
It's just, to have people be able to get real perspectives on why choosing between direct seeding or purchasing seedlings or doing seedlings yourself or, um, mix and match depending on the crops. Like, I think that would be very valuable because it's easy to say, oh, well, seedlings are easy or direct seeding is easy. And, just kind of the unknown overall theory, but to have someone be able to very specifically say, well, these crops in this location, this is why those work best for me, so that someone listening can be, well, I'm in a different location, that's not going to work for me, or I am in a similar location, maybe I should try that.
I love it. I think any opportunity where people can build community and relationships, right? Like that's an obvious no-brainer. But also maybe where there isn't necessarily, there's just maybe a different setup where instead of somebody like talking at people, it's like more opportunity for real live communication and interaction. I know that at the end of the last one, when I was there at the day, we had a pretty good discussion, like a general, conversation. They'd reach out to the audience about different issues and things like that. And that felt like the most lively part of the day. And I did appreciate like some of the training, like, the sit down and the presentation of information ones, absolutely. But just thinking about how there could be just a little bit more cross collaboration amongst the people, and the people being able to talk more or introduce themselves, or like who, where they're from or whatnot. I mean, when I was there, it was a little bit small. And so the actual like main group was, that's why maybe that dynamic conversation worked, is because there wasn't a ton of people. It was just kind of and that's where Ann and I met, So just kind of thinking about how to help increase relationship building, I guess, like whether it's through kind of dedicated activities where you do like little speed dating of like what farm you are and who you are and how you got to be where you know what I mean? Like just kind of to help introduce each other to each other is something that I could see a little bit of opportunity to do maybe in the beginning or whatever, just to kind of help foster that relationship building and understanding of who's who. And so you can kind of say, oh, I want to talk to them, or, oh, that's, that farm I've always heard of, but I haven't been to yet, or whatever. That's kind of was one of the joys from my experience last year.
We did a speed dating for farmers thing. I'm trying to remember where that one was.
I was there for one of them, and it was with Anne, and we did a couple
was.
of them through Local Food Week, and we did them at Great Basin one year. And then Anne did them previously before she partnered with me at Local Food Week, and she did them purposely to help connect restaurants with farmers. So maybe there could be opportunity for that if enough restaurateurs or enough buyers were to come. And there could also be one just of farmers to farmers, right? Because it's kind of fun to have the FaceTime with folks. So there could be different ways to make that happen.
I think the one I attended was at Great Basin, and there was something I don't remember. Just it sticks out. Oh, James was the chef there at the time. That was when Tom and Bonda owned it, and there were a couple things, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to schedule sessions for roundtable discussions and one-on-one discussions of produce buyers and produce sellers, or specialty crop buyers and sellers, livestock, meat providers and meat purchasers, restaurants, those sorts of things. And that happens a lot too. If there's opportunities for people to share and express, and then people hear somebody mention something, they're like, I need to go talk to that person. And so there's a lot of that networking, and that's one of the things that I like. I'm a networker anyway by nature, but the is to have ample time for those discussions to happen. I'm uh, I'm one of the I haven't worn a watch since I left law enforcement, and it was set to military time, and I still have my phone, and I look at my computer screen, so I know what time it is. But it's important at a conference to provide good opportunities where people don't feel like they're enslaved to the clock to make it to the next buzzer, like recess at school, and to have opportunity to talk and visit. And that's where the dinner was marvelous. Having a hosted dinner, or semi-hosted dinner, gives people a real good chance for discussion. That's when it's a long time ago when Jeff Bryan and Steve Tomac cornered me and got me involved in the Walker Basin Conservancy. I was on their board for a number of years, but those those things that don't have a stop time that's imminent really provide a lot of those networking opportunities also.
I think you and I are similar personalities, Rob. You know what I mean?
I know we are.
So maybe we're saying what we like to do, but and maybe that's my, my preference is saying like, this is what I get out of it. But so, hear that, Jordan, but I would echo the sentiments of creating buffers or like spaces around times after the presentations where people can kind of connect, just colloquially, like have a conversation, or I know there's always like Q&As and stuff or whatever, but just anything that allows for people to express who they are, what they're trying, what their needs are, what their values are, or whatever, to kind of help foster like the community building element of things, is something that I think goes often overlooked. And it's hard to like say what it is to people. Like people want like information, right? Like information is valued. And so they're like, I want to go to learn this thing. That you don't say like, oh, I'm going to go and learn to like have a new relationship or care about what someone else said. But inevitably, when in hindsight or looking back or processing, those are usually and sometimes the most magical moments are when you make a new friend or you make a new thing or whatever, So yeah, like Jordan, I can help in more concrete ways of more subject matter, but I think that if there's maybe some, I don't know, even like, Jordan, I'm kind of speaking specifically about the farm to table dinner that we just had. And we collaborated with a group of women who are in supremely creative and knew about community and how to like do, so we had this like little community workshop where people had to do like an activity together to like an icebreaker almost, and I just think that that's kind of a magical thing that gets lost sometimes in like the work or like the business element of the conference. Do you understand what I'm getting at, Jordan?
Definitely to consider having more of those kind of network spaces.
Yeah. Like even if it's like a thing that you do at everyone or whatever that is, even.
Sorry, I just wanted, Ray, it looked like you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, Jordan, I believe you're on that committee that is putting together the small farm conference. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want to express is we have we have the place picked. It's going to be the Nugget, and that's going to determine a lot of things, like you're not going to bring farm equipment. Right? You can't bring farm equipment to the Nugget. Okay. So, but on the other side of that coin, I don't like to see the conference go to lecture style type of presentations. I just firmly believe that the presentation should be something that can involve people. They can say, "Oh, wow, I've done that," or "Oh, I need to do that," or something that they can and get their teeth into, instead of just sitting there and listening to facts, figures, and that kind of stuff. Um,
And I can't guarantee that there will not be any of those kind of lecture style presentations, but I know that we're trying to get a variety of different formats to have the engagement that you're talking about, because I think most of us would agree that people learn better when they're participatory in a way, as opposed to just sitting there and waiting for the clock to hit 12 so that they can go to lunch.
right. That's all I got.
Oh, thank you. This has been really helpful. I think I've got that meeting next week to do some more of the planning for this. So I'm going to take back a lot of really good feedback. So really appreciate that, everybody.
Now, Jordan, you can do hands-on workshops
Mm.
at the Nugget if you really think about it very carefully and do some very, very good planning. It is possible. So just keep that in mind.
We have the time. We got some time, so I'll try to keep that in mind. Is there one hands-on workshop that you think might be most valuable? Open to the floor.
Oh, they're all valuable.
Yeah.
So
I
I
would
think-
agree with that also. They're all valuable. They're all valuable. The one of the things that was really successful at the Nevada Farm Conference, at the conference they used to have in Grass Valley, other conferences that we've been to, and you could have it in Fallon, you could have it in Reno, Sparks, Carson, and do the same thing. Is to have basically a day that has tours and workshops that are off-site. They have a sack lunch or a hosted lunch at a farm somewhere, but everybody, and that's where all the workshops are valuable. Everybody who's willing and interested to have people to their farm to see something, or their business to see something, they have something to offer. And whether it's something on composting or livestock production or a regenerative workshop at I'll throw it out there because he likes people too, Joe Frey's place. Those farm tours accomplish a lot of things. They give people a hands-on, visual, feet on the dirt, hands in the dirt experience. They also have travel to and from, and there's a lot of networking opportunities. And those events, by their very nature, tend to gather people with similar interests together. So the people that are attending a regenerative ag workshop somewhere are all collectively interested in that in some manner or another. And so that opens up a lot of opportunities for networking too. Whether it's this year or in the future, is to have, if there's a 3-day conference, is to have like 2 conference days and 1 day devoted to tours and whatnot. And that's sometimes a good opportunity to start with that dinner also. But anyway, those are some thoughts.
Yeah, I'd love that. Could go visit a producer and get hands dirty, learning how something's done. So I'll definitely take that back. I'm not sure how that works logistically coming from the Nugget, but maybe there's someone close enough by.
you got to think outside the box.
Yeah, my girls go to school and they just wanted to do some like going out trips, field trips, and they reached out to the brothers and sisters, big girl, sorry, I'm forgetting the entity, but they're gonna let us borrow their van and we just have to do an additional insured and stuff. So there could be some fun, I don't know, not to get too overcomplicated, but that could like CWSD, Rob does those great like hop on the bus trips.
Yeah, right.
Where you get on a bus and you go, and it's actually, instead of it being at the Nugget, it could be at all the various farms or whatever, you know, for a day or something like that. But I think Jordan, you're a bit like me too, in that you're a bridge, you know, from the farmer to the academics, right? Like, or from UNR, you know, and these bridges are really important in food systems building. So it's cool that we feel comfortable telling or just sharing and having this open conversation where we can say like, hey, we're the boots on the ground and we're the farmers, you know what I mean? And we appreciate the time and effort that the farm conference people are putting together, right? You know, so thank you, you know, and thanks for being that bridge, because this is where the magic happens, is when people can feel like we can share things, and then you can go away and do the work, you know, that's needed. That will be really great for all of us to get together and stuff. So
We want to make sure the conference is valuable to people who are coming in. So
yeah.
definitely appreciate that perspective. What was valuable for y'all? Well, barring any additional, thanks, Rob. Additional comments, I'm gonna stop it there, and then